Hello all you Python students, thanks for joining me on this video today. I'm out of the country and unable to do regular class, so I figured I'd make this little walkthrough video for you and help you keep practicing your code even while we have to skip class. Okay, so I want to show you what we're going to go through today and make. We're going to make a little hangman game. I know you guys like playing hangman, but this is going to give us some great practice on lists and our logic and our loops, all the things that we've been working on. Okay, so let me show you the game first. I'll play it a couple times to kind of see how it runs. Let's play hangman. Guess a letter. So let's guess, we like the vowels, right? So O. Come on. Oh, I gotta run it. Run. Here we go. Now it's rhyme. O. Wrong letter. A. Ooh, lots of A's in this one. Anybody have any ideas? Let's guess M. Nope. E. Wrong letter. How about B? Ooh, what's that word? Okay, I think there's only one more letter before I lose the game. Let's try N. There it is. Banana. You guessed the word. I knew what it was all along. Banana. There we go. But check it out. Next time I run this game, it's probably not going to be banana again. Notice there's only 5 letters this time. So it's a new word. Okay, this is pretty cool. Let's see if we can't guess this one. O. Ooh, there's an O in it. W. M. What has M and O in it? Interesting. P. I. E. Ooh, there's an E. M. E. Alright, I'm going to show you what happens when you lose, I guess. So P. Oh, you already guessed that letter. Try again. W. I already guessed that one. R. Wrong letter. Oop, there we go. It stopped, looks like. Oh, what happened? That's weird. Wrong letter, guess again. Maybe I've got a bug in there still. Let's try again here. K-I-W. Kiwi. Congratulations, you guessed the word. Notice they're all fruits. For now, I'll show you how to do that. I just want to show you what it does when you lose. Game over. You ran out of guesses. The word was banana. There we go. So it gives you about 8 guesses, I think, to guess the word. And if you lose, hangman, you're going to lose the game and ring out of guesses. And it tells you the word at the end. Okay, so stick with me today and maybe watch this video in a couple sessions, but we're going to be able to make this hangman game today as we go. So let's get started. Okay, to start with, we need to start by practicing with lists again. We may have introduced lists a little bit in the past. Let's just remind ourselves how lists work in Python. A list, we'll say a list is a collection of things. It could be strings, numbers, or both, right? So my list, we make a list by doing the square brackets that are next to P and then separating everything inside with commas like this. Okay, so maybe we have a list of letters like this. Letters are kind of like strings, so they'll need quotation marks. I could have another list with square brackets and numbers, right? I could put numbers in here. Or I could make a third list and put numbers and strings. Right? This is totally possible and useful a lot of times to do numbers like this, lists like this. Okay? So we're going to use lists in our hangman game to help us keep track of all of the guesses that someone has made in the past. Okay? So here's just some examples of lists. I'll comment these out so we can look at them, but they're not going to do anything in this case. So, first thing we want is a word that we're trying to guess. So we'll make a little variable called word, and say we're trying to guess the word apple. I'll make it all lowercase right now just to make it simpler to code. And then I want to make what's called an empty list. So we can make lists, we'll call it guest letters, like this. And we'll make it just an empty list, like this. Square brackets, make a list, and in this case, there's nothing inside the list. It's actually just totally empty. But this is allowed. I can make a list like this. If you're curious, you can print the length of the guest letters, and you'll see that the length is 0, meaning there is no elements inside the list. Okay? Don't worry, we'll add some later. Okay? Good, so we've got a word that we're trying to guess and a list of guest letters that we'll add to as the game progresses. So let's just give a message to the user. Let's play hangman. Yeah, and then we can show them how big the word is. Okay? So the cool thing about strings in Python is that we can multiply them by some number. So what if I put 4 here? This says take this string, which is an underscore and a space. Notice there's 2 characters in this string, an underscore and a space. And I'm going to multiply it by 4, which means that's going to repeat it 4 times. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. Okay, I'll make sure that's a comment so you can see it. There we go. So this is 4 spaces and 4 underscores repeated. See that? That's what I'm repeating. I don't actually want it to be 4 though. I want it to be however long this word is. So in this case we have 5 letters in our word. But what if we change the word later on? We want it to update automatically. So we'll use a command in Python called length, or len, and we'll say word. Okay, so whatever that length is, in this case it's 5, we want to print spaces for each one of the letters we're trying to guess. We can test our code here. Look at that. Let's play hangman. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces that we're trying to fill in with our word. I know what the word is as the programmer, but the user is not going to know what the word is, and therefore they could just see this 5 letters. Okay? Let's try and get a guess from the user. So next step would be to allow the user to guess a letter. So we'll make a little variable called guess, and we'll use input to guess a letter. Oops, can't spell. Letter, space. Good, just like this. Remember, a lot of times in previous codes we've used the int command to make integers out of our inputs, right? We're asking the user for a number and we want it to be stored as an integer instead of as a string. In this case, we want a string input, right? We want them to get a letter in, something that is a word or a letter. This is what we want, okay? We're not specifying uppercase, lowercase, or what if they put in 5 letters at the same time. All these things we can deal with at a later time. We're just going to assume the user knows what to do and that they're going to enter a lowercase single digit letter first. Okay? And then we'll try and run this, make sure it works. Let's play hangman, shows the 5 dashes, and then guess a letter. So if I put in G, it finishes the code. Okay, it doesn't actually do anything with that guess yet, but it is working. It is guessing a letter, which is great. So we have this list up here, this empty list, guessed letters, and anytime we make a guess, anytime the user makes a guess, we should add the guess to the list. So maybe we could check to see if they've already guessed it, or we can go through and fill in the letters that they have guessed or whatever. So this is just will help us keep track of all the letters that they've guessed. So there's a cool command in Python. Some of you have seen it before. Guessed letters. We do a dot, like a period, and then the word append. Look, it's helping me already. Append. Append is kind of a funny word. I like to think of appendix in a book is always at the end. So we're adding the appendix. We're adding or appending an element into the list. Okay, so we can say guess, like this. So we're appending the guess into the list guessed letters. So whatever they input, it will smash onto the end of guessed letters. Let's prove it. Let's print it out and find out what it says. So we'll print guessed letters like this. And when we run, we'll say guess a letter, put in H this time. If I push enter, it will print out. Ooh, look at this. It's a list. See the square brackets? That means it's a list. And inside is a single string with an H on it. Very cool. Let's just make sure this works again by copying all of this code and pasting it. So we're going to do this twice. Going to guess a letter, append it, guess another letter, append it. That's all we're doing, just to kind of test our appending, make sure this is working as we expect it to. Eventually, when we get to this print, guessed letters should have 2 elements in it, right? 2 strings, 2 letters. So we'll guess A and B, and now you can see that A and B are both showing up down here. 2 elements in my guessed letter list. Nice, it's working. So maybe at some point we'll think about making maximum numbers of guesses, or I guess in Hangman you have so many guesses before you lose the game, right? So we can add that later. So I'll delete this for now because we'll want to do a loop probably instead of copying and pasting like that. So we've got a guess letters, append, and then print out the letters just for our own sake. Okay, so we can do something to check to see if this guess is in the word. Right? That's how Hangman works. If guess is in the word, then we will show it to them and where it is. If guess is not in the word, we can print out maybe, no, wrong guess. Try again. Okay, so let's start with that case. If guess not in word. This is how we say it. Looks a lot like English, doesn't it? But these are actually keywords in Python that mean really specific things. If the guess that I entered is not contained in the string word, if it's not within that, then run this code. Remember the tab. We're going to tab and say, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll print to the user wrong letter. Guess again. Okay, and then probably we'll loop back and start over. But we haven't added the loop yet. If guess not in the word, print wrong letter, guess again. Let's just test that out and see if that works. See if our logic of if guess not in word is correct. So I know the word is apple, so I'm going to guess the letter that's not in apple, like G. And it should tell me wrong letter. There it is. It worked. So the G is the letter that I've guessed. Wrong letter. Guess again. Cool. And if I run maybe A, because I know A is an apple, it prints A, and it does not print wrong letter, guess again. So this code is skipped because this was false. It's hard to kind of follow the logic here. You got to make sure you understand this not mean. The not is a opposite operator, right? So it's what's false becomes true, and what's true becomes false. So guess in the word would mean that the guess is contained in it. We're negating it by using the word not, and then we can go to that. Okay, so that's the not in the word case. Now we can say if the letter is actually in the word. Okay, and we're going to do this with a kind of a loop. This is a little more complicated here, so try and stick with me. We're going to make an empty string to start called word progress. Okay, an empty string is kind of like an empty list. It just has 2 quotation marks like this, that nothing in between, right? And empty. It's empty. So you could use the single quotes, or you could use the double quotes. Both work just fine. That's how we're going to do it. Okay, word progress. And then we're going to do a for loop that iterates through every single letter in this word. So it's going to go through A, and then P, and then L, and then E. Okay, P, P, L, E, apple. So to do that, we say for letter in word. Word is the variable that we've used up here. So for the letter in the word, we'll say if, for each letter we want to check to see if the letter is in the guessed letters. Okay, stay with me here. For I'm going through each letter of this word, and for each letter, starting on A and then P, I'm going to check to see if the letter that's in the word is in my guessed letters. Have I actually guessed this letter before? And if so, we will add to word progress we're going to take the old word progress and add to it letter, add the letter that we found. Say we found apple, A, and guessed letter has A in it, so we're going to add A to the word progress and add the letter and add an empty string like this. Actually, it's not an empty string, it's a string with a space in it. See how there's actually a space here? This is just going to kind of separate all our letters, make it easier to see. Okay? So word progress equals word progress plus letter plus space. Plus signs for strings. Remember, this is a little weird. Normally we just think of plus in terms of numbers and math, but we can actually add or plus strings together too, and that's called concatenation. We're taking the two and putting them together. So hello world, smash them together, now it says hello world. Okay, both two together. That's what the plus operator means when you're talking about words. I think I've spelled word progress wrong, haven't I? Let's check this. You can copy and paste it, make sure it's the same value. There we go. Now get rid of my squiggles. Okay, there's an else case here, right? So if the letter is in the guessed letters, then we want to add the letter to it so that we can print it out to the screen. If it's not, then we'll use the else case and we'll say word progress is equal to word progress, but this time we're not going to add the letter. We're just going to add a underscore. Why does it keep doing that? Underscore and a space. Okay, so I'm substituting the underscore for the letter. I'm deciding whether to show the user the letter that they guessed or the underscore like we originally showed so that they can't see the letters. Okay, we're kind of uncovering the letters with this little for loop like this. Now we can print word progress and test our code here. Okay, let's see if this works to our liking. We're going to guess a letter. If that letter, now that's contained in guessed letters list, if it is in our word, then we will show it. If it's not in our word, then we will keep it as an underscore. Hopefully, this is kind of the crux of the game here. So let's try a letter that's not in the word first, like H. Wrong letter, guess again. There we go, it still prints out my 5 underscores, just like I did at the beginning. 5 underscores here, 5 underscores here. No letters. Cool, let's run it again. Guess a letter that is in the case. Let's do P. And look at that. P is in the guessed letters list, so when it went to P, it said, oh, fill in the letter here instead of an underscore. So I've got an underscore, 2 P's, 2 underscores. It worked. Okay, so really study this code. This is kind of a hard little for loop to understand what's happening here. Make sure you type it just the way I've done. If you're having trouble with it, I can help you a later time. But let me just read it back to you real carefully and see if you can follow it. We're going to set the word progress, a new variable, to an empty string. There's nothing in it at the beginning. For each letter in the original word, A, P, and L, and E, we're going to check to see if that letter is in the guesses that have already occurred. And if it is, add that letter to the word progress string. If it's not in the guessed letters, if we have not guessed that letter yet, then you're just going to display a underscore still. After that for loop is all done, this is the for loop, okay? Notice the indentation. Anything that's indented underneath it is part of the loop. This is not part of the loop. We only want to print the word progress one time at the very end to show the results of this code. Okay? We could put it inside the for loop by putting a tab here. Now it's inside of the for loop, and you can kind of see how it progresses. This might be useful to you to see how the for loop is running. Let's put in P again, and you can watch and see how the loop works. So the first time the loop goes through and it puts in an underscore. The second time the loop goes in, it puts in a P. The third time it puts in another P. Fourth time, 2 P's and 2 underscores. The fifth time, 2 P's and 3 underscores. See how this is a loop, right? It's iterating through the word and making this word progress longer and longer each time. We don't really need to show the user that. We just want to show the end result at the end by only doing it outside the loop. Okay? Word progress. That's how we do this game. Alright, you might be thinking, well, we need to repeat this process a bunch of times because we want to give them opportunities to guess multiple times. And you're right. So let's decide what parts of this code need to be repeated. That's a really good exercise here. So word equals apple. No, that does not need to be repeated. That's going to be the same each time. Guessed letters declared as an empty string. We do not want to repeat that again because it will delete all our guesses. How about print let's play hangman? Or print the original underscores with the word. I don't think we want to do that either because that will kind of confuse them if we are middle of guessing letters and it shows us again. That's going to be not right. How about guess input? Ooh, I think we need that one again. We need to make sure that this occurs again. So I'm going to put a little note to myself. Start loop right here. Okay, I think this is right. Guess letters append. We want to do that. Print the guess letters if guess not in word. And then each time we want to print the word progress. So I think all of this end the loop, right? They all need to be part of a bigger loop that operates over and over again to give them the game. So let's highlight all of it that's inside our 2 brackets here that we just decided, and we'll put a tab on it. Okay, so we can highlight and push tab to move it all over, and we will make sure that there is a for I in range 10. Just for now, we want to give them 10 chances. Okay, for I in range 10, repeat this code 10 times. For now, we can decide later how many times is the right number of times and get a little fancy later than this, but you should be able to create a simple loop like this by just putting for I in range 10 and indenting all of this stuff. Notice this line right here is now triple indented. It's in this for loop, it's in this for loop, and it's in this if statement. So it has to get indented 3 times. Once for here, twice, and 3 times. This is 3 indents right here. Okay, this is important. Sometimes hard to read a little bit and understand, but this is how you have to write Python code to make sure that it knows what you mean. Alright, let's run. Let's find out if this works. So I'm going to first guess a letter that's not in apple, maybe H. It says wrong letter, guess again, and it still shows me 5 underscores. Guess a letter L. There it is. It's showing me that I've guessed H and L, and there are 5 letters, and L is the 4th one. Okay. How about U? Wrong letter. I'm going to guess a bunch of letters and see when our loop breaks. Wrong letter, guess again. Make sure I don't guess the right letters here. So it should give me 10 guesses, and now it stopped. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Total of 10 guesses, and then after those 10 guesses, the loop stops. It doesn't tell me you lost or you didn't get it or whatever. We can add those kind of things later, but we definitely have a loop that's working 10 times. So let's just make sure it works. If I actually do guess it, we'll do A, P, L, and E. And there it is. My 4 letters that I've guessed are A, P, L, and E. and I have guessed the whole word apple. Looks like it's still going to keep going, though. Unfortunately, we haven't figured out how to stop the loop if we've guessed the word, right? It's still going to go 10 times no matter what happened, which is probably not the good way to write this code. Okay, so we made some progress. We've got to the point where we're guessing, we're letting the user input guesses repeatedly. We're appending the empty list guessed letters with a new guess each time, and we're printing them to show to the user. It's optional. If guess is not in the word, we print out the wrong letter. If the guess is in the word, we're going to loop through and put it in so we can print it to the screen and show them. Okay. This for loop, again, is a little bit of the challenging part of this code. Once you get this down, the rest is more easy. Remember, all of this is in a greater for loop that gets repeated over and over again. Alright, so should we make this a little bit better? This is kind of step 0, meaning this is your baseline beginner level hangman here. Let's try and make it a little more advanced and make it a little more interesting for the user to play. I think the first thing we should add is a stop if they guess it, right? Because I think it's kind of silly if I got the word right. Why does it keep asking me more letters? So we're going to use the break command. I don't know if you've ever seen this one before. It's called break. Okay, it looks like this. Break is a keyword in Python that will stop the loop that it's a part of. Okay, prematurely if needed. So break, if the break is sitting right here, it's a part of this for loop, and this is the for loop that will stop. So if I put this command right here, it's actually only going to run this loop one time, and it won't even print out the word progress. So I broke this loop prematurely before the print even happens, and you'll see that it stops a loop for me. That break command is really useful. Now let's see, I put in a letter and boom, it stopped already. It's not asking me anything else. The game is over already because of this word break that I put in here. Okay, so let's be a little more clever about how we're using this. Let's check to see if the whole word has been guessed. And if the whole word has been guessed, we can be a little clever and say that these little underscores will be gone, right? As I go through this loop, every single letter is guessed. All of these will just be letter, and there will be no more underscores left. So I can use that fact to determine if it's time to break the loop or not. So I'll use an if statement that says, if underscore not in word progress. Okay. If underscore is not in the word progress, meaning this is no longer in the printout, the readout, then I know that I've won the game and I don't need to do this anymore. So I will say break. If the underscore is not in word progress, break. Okay, let's try it. So I'm going to guess A, P, L, and E. Hopefully it will stop now. There we go, it did. Oh, it actually didn't even show me the word, which maybe that's not quite right. I probably should show it first and then break. So we'll just rearrange the code here a little bit. So we'll take this one out and put it up here. Print the word first and then break it out if we want to. Let's just double check that's working. A, P, L, oops, capitalized an accident. P, where are you? L and E. There we go. A-P-P-L-E, it printed the word, and now it is stopped. Notice that they're not asking me for more inputs anymore. Our break command worked. If the underscore is not in word progress, if there's no more letters to be found, then we can stop the loop. Maybe we'll give them just a little bit more information by saying print congratulations, you guessed the word. Right, just to make it a little more interactive and make sure they understand why we're stopping the game. I hope you notice how many times I'm testing my code. Every single time you make a change, it is advisable and wise to double check, to test your code a bunch of times. So if you can scroll up here, look how many times we've run this code already. This is really important. This is how we want to debug and write code. If you type 20 lines and then you decide to test, you may find that there are errors in here that you didn't know about. Okay? And so sometimes it's easier to just write a couple lines, maybe one or two, and then run it again and make sure you didn't make any inadvertent mistakes. Right? And it's a little tedious that way, but it actually saves you time in the long run if you test often. Okay, that's working now. Congratulations, you guessed the word. I like that. That's a little more interesting and useful. Alright, maybe the next thing we can do is put in max guessing. So right now we said 10. A better way to do this is to actually make a variable up here. Right here up here at the top of the game, we want to say max guesses. Let's say it's maybe 8 this time. Okay, by putting it up here, it's much easier to see and change later on. And then I'm going to put inside my loop, instead of 10, I'm going to actually use that variable, max guesses. Okay, this may seem like I didn't do much, and you're right, I didn't actually do anything different here other than change 10 to 8. But I'm putting all of the numbers or variables that I want to change later on right at the top of my code, so that it's much easier for me to come back a year from now and see what I'm doing. Why is this 10 here? Why does this number make sense? And if I label it, if I give it a name, if I give numbers names, it's much easier to understand later on why I did this. Okay? So max guesses equals 8. For I in range max guesses, now I can run this 8 times. However, there's a little bit of a problem, and that is if I guess a letter twice. So let's run this and kind of demonstrate. What if I'm a little silly and I just guess T over and over again? T, 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 T. Okay, let me guess T 8 times. And it continued to increase this list with T's in it. But I don't know if that really is 8 guesses. Maybe someone didn't quite understand the game and they kept guessing T even though they was wrong. And so maybe we need to put a check in there to not let them do that. Let's see here. Maybe we need to just put in a little instruction to make sure they know they've already guessed that letter, because maybe you forgot. Okay, so we can do it like this. Right after the guess, but before we append it to the list, we'll do a little check and say, if the guess is already in guessed letters, okay, if it's in the list already, then we can say print, you already guessed that letter. Try again. Okay, I think this will be a helpful instruction to them as they're going along. Eventually, especially if we hide the letters, right? We can hide this, print guess letters, and now they won't actually see them. And it might be a little more useful to print already guessed that letter. Now, there's another little trick in Python that allows us to manipulate loops here a little bit. So think about how this is going to go right now. We're doing the loop. If we guess a letter again, say we guess T twice, it's going to tell me that I guessed that letter already. However, it's still going to proceed and say append that guess to the letters, and it's still going to tell me wrong letter, and it's still going to go through this loop, and it's still going to print out the progress. That seems a little silly. I think if we have already guessed that letter, we should go back and do this again. Right? After this print, you already guessed that letter. I want it to ask me another guess. That's what I want it to do. And there's a cool little trick, a little key word that we use to do this kind of thing, and it's the word continue. Okay. Notice keywords get blue when in Replit. That's kind of nice to help you understand that you typed it right. What does continue do? Continue is kind of like a break. They're very kind of similar. Remember we did the break before to stop the loop. The continue just stops this iteration of the loop. So the continue says, actually don't finish the loop, go back and start it again. So it's kind of like saying continue the iteration. Maybe I'll make a little note here that says go back to the start of the loop again. Skip the rest, okay, of the loop. Go back to the start and skip. Continue says stop the whole loop altogether. Okay, it's kind of subtly different here. This one, break, stops the loop altogether. Continue goes back to the start of the loop and skips the rest that's below it. I think that's going to be cool. If my guess has already been guessed, then give me another chance to guess. Okay. It will still only give me 8 guesses though, so you better be careful how you use them, I think. Okay, guess a letter, Y. Let's try and guess it again, and it will say, you already guessed that letter, try again. And then it goes right back to guess a letter. It doesn't show me the printout anymore. It doesn't do any of that other code. I can do this a bunch of times, and it will actually stop my code eventually after 8 of those guesses. So I'll have to be thinking about how to make it so we don't loop through here. Yeah, we could do that. We're just a little more clever about how we do our looping to not charge you a guess if you already guessed a letter. So that's one thing we can add later on. Okay, so isn't it fun to be able to write a code and then say, how do we make this better? What are some extra features I want to add to it as you progress? Okay, let's think about another feature. Oh, here's a good one. What if we could have the word that the user is going to guess be unknown? So right now we're just using apple, but what if we could figure out a way to change it each time? So that would be pretty cool and useful. Then it's not only fun for someone else because they don't know the word apple, it would also be fun for me because I might not know which word is being selected. We could randomize it a little. Remember, I think one time we used the random variable for generating random numbers. We need to import a library, and that library is called random. So we'll import random. This is important for any kind of randomization we want to do. And then instead of just word equals apple, I want to actually put in a bunch of words. So I'm going to copy this over. Ooh, look at this. Now we got 5. And you can have as many as you want here. You can have a whole library, a whole dictionary of words, and have so many that you'll never be able to guess it by just reading through this code. So word equals a list. Remember these square brackets make a list of strings. The string starts and ends right here, separated by comma, a new string, comma, new string, comma, new string, comma, new string, and then at the end is the final square bracket to make a list. Okay, now to make this new, instead of saying word equals apple, I can say word equals random dot choice of words. Okay, so this random dot choice works for lists, and it just says go through the list and pick one of these at random. So sometimes it'll be banana, sometimes it'll be kiwi, sometimes it'll be melon, orange, apple. Everything else about my code can stay the same. All I've done is change this variable, what this variable is. And notice, since we use the variable later on for length of word and is the guess in the word, and for letter in word, I didn't type apple here, right? Like I could have done before. I could have typed apple here, and then I would have had to go back and change all of those once I changed the word. So we were trying to be a little clever and wise and say use this variable so that if we ever changed it, it would still work. And hopefully, if we've done it all right, this will now pick a random word of these 5 and run the game on that random word. We could probably guess by how many letters there are. 6. Ooh, it's either banana or orange. Let's find out. Let's search A first. Ooh, looks like it's orange. G, N, and E. Congratulations, you guessed the word. Look at that, we did it. Run it again. This next time, it's not going to be orange. Ooh, wrong letter. Let's guess an I. There it is. So this one is kiwi. Congratulations. Cool. Now this is a fun game for me too. I don't have to just give it to somebody who doesn't know the word. Oh, it's banana. Lots of A's in banana. Okay, so right now there's only 5 words, so it's pretty easy for me to guess, but you can imagine you could have 500 words here that you've typed in or selected. You could download a whole dictionary from the internet and use all the words you can think of and make a really challenging hangman game if you want to. Okay. With this random choice of words, that's the key here. We're inputting a list of words and we select one of them with a random choice. Okay, this is pretty cool. What else can we do to make this game a little more interesting? How about we fix this repeat guessing thing here? So again, anytime you feel like it's a little too much or a little overwhelming, go back and just keep it simple, right? It's okay to start with a simple game and then be a little ambitious and add some features as time progresses. It's okay to understand the simple version and then see if you can't make it even better by putting in extra features here. So I'm going to put in another feature that's a little more advanced, but I think you guys can handle it. And that's going to help us, this new feature I'm going to add is going to help us fix this problem that I've identified of I can guess the same letter 8 times and it still breaks my code. It'd be really nice if I guess the same letter, it doesn't charge me a guess. I don't rack up my guesses so that I can go back and try again. It kind of gives a little bit of fail-safe in it. Okay? We're going to have to use a while loop instead of a for loop to make this happen. Remember, there's 2 kinds of loops. For loops run a specific number of times, and while loops will run an infinite or unknown number of times. So I can do this with a while loop by setting one more variable here. We'll say, next to max guesses, I'm going to set a variable called guesses and set it to 0. So max guesses is the number I want to let them go up to, but guesses is going to change the number of how many guesses that have happened already. And I can use those 2 variables to create a kind of while loop here. So I'm going to change this from a for loop that does the whole game to a while guesses is less than max guesses. Okay, right now it's obviously less than max guesses. 0 is less than 8. But each time through the loop, I'm actually going to increment it. I'm going to add 1. And eventually, this number will be higher than 8. And it will stop the loop and stop guessing. Okay? And this is how we're going to do this. If the guess is in the guessed letters, then we can continue and not increment guesses. After that, we're going to increment guesses by saying guesses equals guesses plus 1. Whatever the old value was, we're going to add 1 to it. Now, this isn't just going to run 8 times all the time. It will run as many times as needed to get guesses up to 8. Usually it'll be about 8, but if they repeat a guessed letter, then it won't charge them this guess, and they won't be able to get a free guess, basically, another guess. Okay, I think this will work. Let's test it out and see if this is what we wanted to do. Let's play Hangman. Guess a letter. So I'm just going to guess C a bunch of times, and you can see that it says I already guessed the letter, and it looks like it's going to let me guess C forever. Cool, that's working. So let's go back and try to actually get this right now. So now I don't just have 8 guesses, or at least I fixed the problem where I've got all these C guesses, and it lets me keep guessing them. Gives them to me for free. It doesn't actually charge me for them, and I can go back and actually play the game correctly. Then I'll still have those 8 unique guesses, you might say. Okay, so that was cool. We changed the loop from a for loop to a while loop, and used another variable to check to see if we've used too many guesses. We didn't check to see if that works yet, did we? So let's guess real letters, but ones that are not in our word. And eventually, there we go. It went 8 times, and now it stopped. I didn't actually finish the guessing, but since I guessed unique letters each time, it charged me for all 8 of those guesses, and now the game is over. So I should probably tell them that's what happened, I think. Let's see here. How can we do that? Okay, maybe after the loop, right? So after the loop, after the whole loop's over, we can print game over, maybe. Game over. You ran out of guesses. And we could even tell them what the word is. The word was. The word was word. Okay, just so they can know at the end of the game what the word was. So let's try this. G, H, J, K. I'm trying to guess letters that are not in it. U, Y, T. Here we go, it worked. So wrong letter, guess again. I guessed this last letter, and then it says game over. You ran out of guesses. The word was kiwi. Okay, cool. So some of you are kind of astute and probably realize that we've got a bug now we just introduced, because this code right here is always going to run no matter what happens before it. So that's maybe not awesome, because say I actually do get the word right. Let's see, what is this one? What's this one? This must be melon, I think. Here we go. So what if I do actually guess it right, and it's gonna still say congratulations, you guessed the word because of this code right here, right? But then it also tells me game over, you ran out of guesses. So that's a little fishy. That's not exactly what we want. So we need some kind of if statement here that tells me if the game is lost or maybe the game was won. Okay, so this is a little more clever. Sometimes you do this. You write in some code and it works for one case, but the other case is broken now. So we have to think about all the use cases of our code and make sure we get it right. So maybe I did something like that. If a new variable called 1 is not true. Let's try this. So we'll make a variable at the beginning called 1, and we'll set it to false to begin with. Okay, because I haven't won the game yet. But when I do actually win the game, which will be right in here, congratulations, you guessed the word, we can set the 1 variable to true. It's kind of like a little flag, a little, they call it binary flag. It's 0 or 1, true or false. And I'm setting it here because this will only happen one time if I actually do guess the word. If I don't guess the word and this whole loop happens without guessing the word ever, then it's going to come down here and it's going to check to see if the word 1 is false. Maybe I'll make this a little more clearer for you by typing in 1 is false. If 1 is false, that means we haven't won the game yet, and it will actually print this statement. Okay? Now we should be able to run this again, and let's check again. If I guess kiwi, congratulations, you guessed the word. It did in fact skip these lines of code at the end and didn't show them to me, which is exactly what I wanted. This 1 equals true flag worked. Okay, so this is a common thing we do in code. We make these little flag variables, these little true or false checks, and we initialize them to some value, and then eventually somewhere in the code, in some cases, we'll turn them on or turn them to true so that we can make decisions later on in our code. This is a really common thing that we do. Okay, so this is getting pretty advanced. We got hangman, we've got random choice words, we've got empty lists and max guesses, we've got a while loop, and all these things that we're doing to make this interesting. Oh, I had another thought. If you actually do guess a letter, should you be charged a guess? And I think maybe not, right? What if I had a really long word? So you got to kind of think about all of these things, right? What if I actually combine these words together? An apple, banana, orange, kiwi. This is a really long word. I think it has at least 8 unique letters in it. And let's run it until I actually find it. There we go. So this is a really long word. And sometimes you have words that are this long if you are randomizing them. And so I'm going to do my very best to guess this word because I know what it is. But I think it still might not work because I don't have enough guesses. Let's see here. What else do I need? O, R, N. Wow, see, so I did not get a wrong letter guess the whole time. I guessed 8 letters, and it says game over, I ran out of guesses. So that's not very nice. What if I have a long word, and I need more than 8 guesses to get through it? So maybe we should also not charge people a guess if they got it right. Ah, tricky. Okay, so there's kind of 3 different cases that we're talking about here. The guess is correct, the guess is incorrect, or the guess has already been guessed. Remember, we covered that case already. We kind of figured out how to do with that. So in 3 of those cases, we only want to charge them a guess on 1 of those cases, and that is if the guess is incorrect. If the guess is correct, we don't want to increment the guesses. And if guess has already been guessed, we don't want to increment the guesses. So let's look at our code here and see where we're doing this. This right here is where we say increment the guesses. All right, so we're adding 1 to the guess. Let's say +1. Let's only do this. I'll make another comment here so you can see. Let's only charge a guess if the guess is incorrect. Okay, if it's correct, we don't want to do this. So we can actually fix this pretty easily. If we copy this here and take it out and put it in this if statement like here, remember this was going to only occur if the guess is not in the word. If this is a wrong letter, then we can put it in here and say if the guess is not in the word, then we can increment the guesses. So actually, in this case, I'm actually giving them 8 wrong guesses, which maybe is about right if you think about hangman. I don't penalize them for guessing correct letters. I just start to draw the hangman in if the letters are incorrect. So this is maybe a little better how we're doing this now, where we're incrementing the guess inside this if statement that says if the guess is not in the word. Alright, let's try it one more time. Let's see if we get the long words again. Okay, I think I'll have enough now. Kiwi, orange. See, there we go. You already guessed that letter. Okay, so it didn't charge me for that one. That's nice. orange, and E. There we go. Now it gave me more than 8 guesses. I like that. That's a little better. Apple, banana, orange, kiwi. Congratulations, you guessed the word. Okay, so I hope more than just following along with my code, I hope you're following along with my coding process. Like, you're watching how I'm doing this more than just what I'm doing. I want you guys to have the skills to debug your code and to go slow and to really think carefully about why you're coding these things. Think critically about what all the different cases are. What are the different options that can occur? What are the different words that we want to be able to handle? And make sure that you test your code a lot. Every time you're making a change, I want you to test it. And further, I want you to realize that I started with something really simple. I had this challenge of, can I make a hangman? Let's start with the basic, most simplest hangman I can think of, and then try to add these features later on. The error checking and the cool messages at the end and all these things. We started with maybe like 10 lines of code, and now we've got more like 40 as we've expanded it and expanded our feature set on this game. Okay, so those are really good tips for you guys as you're writing your own codes. Start with something really simple, make it as easy as you possibly can, and then try to add features later on. Okay, so this will be on our team Replit if you guys want to just go and see my code in the final version. But it's probably really good practice for you to actually type it all out. Follow along with my video, pause it if you need to, and type it all out. See if you can't understand it better by doing it. Okay? Start simple, start with something easy, and then get harder. If you guys think of other features or things you want to add to this hangman, please feel free to try them out. Test them out, make new and exciting games, and I'm excited to see them when I come back, when I see you again. Okay, thanks for joining me today on this video for Hangman tutorial. Hope to see you guys soon and see what kind of code you can come up with. Bye for now.